Welcome to FacingMelsMusic.com podcast, featuring some of the most heartwarming stories from musicians all around the world on FacingMelsMusic.com.
And welcome to Facing Mel's Music. This is Mel Golding. I am your host for this afternoon, and I have a great, very interesting guest all the way from Colorado, Terry Tucker. Welcome.
Thanks, Mel. I'm looking forward to talking with you.
Oh, I'm just delighted to have you. I've read you're an author. You are the founder of Motivational Check. And this is kind of what I want to be talking about with you today and really exploring what that's all about and the inspiration behind it. You consider yourself as someone reinvented frequently over your professional career. So that's something that would be really interesting to elaborate on. You're a former basketball player. You're a former police officer at Cincinnati Police Department.
Correct.
And this is really, really interesting. You were a SWAT team hostage negotiator. Goodness. I bet you can't talk much about that, can you really?
Sure, I can talk about it. Yeah.
Top secret stuff. Okay. But we can talk about anything you like. And more importantly, and I say more importantly, you consider yourself a cancer warrior. And this is kind of what I want to look into, because I imagine that was kind of the game changer in your life, something that really changed you can tell me. I mean, why don't you talk about that actually? Tell me about what you went through and how you transitioned and changed careers and all these different skills to where you're at now. And you released a book, and we'll come to the book as well. So, yeah, why don't you tell me about that? What happened there?
Sure. So I guess professionally, I'll sort of run through that and then kind of get into my cancer journey a little bit.
Okay.
When I graduated from college, I was actually fortunate to get my first job in the marketing department at the corporate headquarters of Wendy's International, the hamburger chain.
Right.
And that was kind of the heyday of fast food. You know, there were all kinds of cool, interesting things going on. So I did that for a while. Then I became a hospital administrator, as you mentioned. Then I made a major pivot in my life, became a police officer. I actually worked undercover narcotics for a while, buying drugs and things like that.
Good
was
Lord.
a SWAT team hostage negotiator, started my own school security consulting business, and was a girls' high school basketball coach. And that's kind of when the whole cancer journey started. I had a callus break open on the bottom of my foot, right below my third toe. And initially, I didn't think much of it because as a coach, you're on your feet a lot. And after a few weeks of it not healing, I made an appointment and went to see a podiatrist, a foot doctor friend of mine. And he took an x-ray and he said, Terry, I think you have a little cyst in there and I can cut it out. And he did.
Okay.
And, and he showed it to me. It was just a little gelatin sac with some white fat in it, no dark spots, no blood. Nothing that gave either one of us concern, but he sent it off to pathology to have it looked at.
Yep.
And then 2 weeks later, I received a call from him. And as I mentioned, he was a friend of mine. And the more difficulty he was having explaining what was going on, the more frightened I was becoming. And so finally, he just kind of laid it out for me. He said, Terry, I've been a doctor for 25 years. I have never seen the form of cancer that you have. You have a very rare form of melanoma that appears on the bottom of the feet or the palms of the hands. And because my cancer was so rare, he recommended I go to what MD Anderson Cancer Center, probably the best cancer hospital in the United States, and be treated. And so I did. I had a surgery to remove the tumor on the bottom of my foot. I had surgery to move all the lymph nodes in my groin. And when I healed, my doctor put me on a weekly injection of a drug called interferon.
Yep, I read that.
Keep the disease from coming back.
Yep.
And interferon for me was just a horrible, nasty, debilitating drug. The side effects were that it gave me flu-like symptoms for 2 to 3 days every week after each injection. And I took those weekly injections for almost 5 years. So imagine having the flu every week for 5 years.
Yeah.
And that wasn't a cure. That was just, we're trying to kick the can down the road. 2017, I ended up in the intensive care unit with a fever of 108 degrees because of the toxicity of the interferon. So I had to stop it. And literally almost immediately after stopping the drug, the cancer came back in the exact same spot on my foot where it had presented.
Goodness.
And that was 2018. I had my left foot amputated. 2019, the cancer worked its way up into my shin, 2 more surgeries. And then 2020, I had an undiagnosed tumor that grew large enough that it fractured my tibia, my shin bone.
Right.
My only recourse right in the middle of the pandemic was to have my left leg amputated above the knee. And I also found out I had tumors in my lungs, which I'm
Yes.
still being treated for. So that's kind of a long-winded journey through cancer. And I know that sounds ugly and dark and all that, and it has been, but I'll say this much: cancer has made me a better person.
Right. Right. Yeah, I got this. So just let me just roll back, because that's quite a lot to take in.
It is.
Okay, it is, and I have read all of this, and I do know all of this, and there's some very big words that I can't even pronounce actually, but the name, because it's a rare cancer.
Yeah.
So what? How many years did this span over from basically the discovery to the amputations and where you are now? So what is this? You're looking at more than 5 years actually.
10 years.
10 years.
10 years.
So this is 10 years.
Yeah,
and you're still
2012.
battling.
Yeah.
2012. Goodness me. In what way? Okay, let's look at your career. I mean, this is going to affect you, your life, your career as well. If you want to break it all down. I mean, how did you transition career-wise? I mean, what happened over this period of time? Obviously, you were ill. You were in and out of hospital. You were having treatments. You must have been on pause from a working position. And during this time, is this when you started to, was there a shift in the way you were thinking?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I haven't really worked in any formal capacity since I got cancer.
Right.
You know, I like I said, I had surgery and I was on this drug, interferon, for 5 years. And I was just sick all the time. So, I mean, there was, that was 5 years of being out of the workforce. And then, you think, well, should I do this? Can I go back to work? Well, I mean, what skill? I mean, I was a policeman, well, obviously I can't do that. And so I really haven't been able to do anything. So yeah, I think there was a shift in my mindset of, okay, now what? I remember literally laying in bed after I had my foot amputated, kind of looking at the ceiling like, all right, God, what's next? What do you want me to do? I have no goals. I have no dreams. I have no desires. I don't know where I'm at a crossroads. What do you do? And, I there's kind of that old joke that says when we talk to God, it's called prayer. When God talks to us, it's called schizophrenia. So, I've never
heard that. I do like it though.
I mean, I've never had God talk to me, but I think in a lot of ways what God does is he puts people in our path, makes suggestions.
Yes.
And, we're free to say, no, don't want to do that. I'm going to go another route, or maybe I ought to perk up and listen to this. And, people were saying you should start a blog. And I'm like, blog? Right. I'm old. I can barely turn my cell phone on in the morning. So, I mean, starting a blog was, way over my head.
Yeah.
But I did. Right. And it's not a monetary thing. I don't make any money off of it or anything, but when I started, it was 4 pages long. Honest, and this is the honest truth. Yeah. It took me 4 months. I had no idea what I was doing. I would go a little like, I don't know what that means. I got to go research it. And then come back a little further. I'm sure my daughter could have done it in 15 minutes.
Wow.
And it literally took me 4 months. So, so they're just, you have to have, you have to have a purpose. And when you have cancer, when you get sick, I remember my dad was dying when I graduated from college, and he was in real estate. He loved real estate.
Yeah.
And he worked up till 2 weeks before he died.
Yeah.
And he had end-stage breast cancer, which back in the 1980s, they didn't know what to do with a man with breast cancer.
Yeah.
So, but I kind of tucked that in the back of my mind, because I don't think if he would have had his job, something he was passionate about, he would have lived that long. He lived 3.5 years after basically being given a death sentence.
Yeah. So that was some inspiration for you, really, when you're looking at from that perspective of purpose. Now, that's a very big word. And what you do here with your writing and the book, I want to come to the book in a minute. Well, you've talked about what I consider to be transferable skills. So you had a lot of skill set with all your careers, everything you did, and you've kind of reorganized them in a format which is through the word, through blogs and through writing. And your site is called Motivational Check. So it's all about motivating. What I love I'd like you to talk about your four truths. Your four truths. I mean, I've got it written down here. I mean, it's an incredible ability to actually change from this is what's happening to me, I'm ill, the reality of what's happening, to actually being positive, thinking about it, and to trying to transform that into some kind of positivity. But I guess that's what you did, because that was your survival.
It was.
Yes.
You're absolutely right. And
Yeah.
the four, I call them the four truths, my
Yes.
four truths, but they're not mine. I don't own them. I don't think you can own, a truth in that regard. But they're things I've come to
Yeah.
understand, certainly over these last 10 years, maybe a little bit earlier in my life.
Yeah.
But I call them the bedrock of my soul. They're a good
Yeah.
place to start to build a
Mm.
quality life off of. So
Yeah.
I'll give them to you. I have them on a Post-it note here in my office. I see them multiple times during the
Good.
day. So they constantly get reinforced in my mind.
Oh,
So the
that's
first
good.
one, talking about mind, is
Control.
control your mind,
Yeah.
or your mind is going to control you. And
Okay.
I learned that earlier in life. When I was
Yeah.
in high school, I was a pretty good basketball player. I actually went to college to play basketball.
Yeah.
And when I was in high school, I had 3 knee surgeries. And I remember when I went back playing after those knee surgeries, my mind was putting all kinds of negative thoughts into my brain, like,
Mm.
hey, you're probably a step slower and college coaches aren't going to be interested in recruiting you.
Mm.
And I was like, wait a minute, I'm still playing at an elite
Yeah.
level and coaches are still reaching out about
Yeah.
the possibility of getting a scholarship. So
Yeah.
I realized I had to change the narrative. I had to flip the switch to
Yeah.
something more
Yeah.
positive. So
Yeah.
that's really what control your mind is
Absolutely.
about.
Mm. Mm.
The second one is embrace the pain and the difficulty that we
Yeah.
all experience in life,
Yeah.
and use that pain and difficulty to make you a stronger and more resilient individual. We're
Amazing.
all going to experience pain in our lives. And it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be cancer pain or even any
No.
kind of illness. I mean,
Yeah.
you can break up with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, or, not get the promotion.
Emotional pain. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Not get the
Yeah.
promotion at work you
Mm.
believe you deserve, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Pain is inevitable.
Yeah.
Suffering, on the other hand, suffering's optional. Suffering's what you do with that pain. Do you take it and use it to make you a stronger person? Or do you
Interesting.
wallow in it and feel sorry for yourself and want others to feel sorry for you? It's a choice. Life isn't going to say, "Oh, Terry's having a down day. I'm gonna make it up to him." That life doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So you've got to take that pain and,
Yeah.
instead of running from it,
Yeah.
take it, flip it inside, burn it as energy,
Yeah.
use it as fuel to make you a stronger person. So
Fantastic.
that's the second one.
Yeah.
The third one is what I kind of call a legacy truth. I think it's
Right.
important, regardless of what stage in life we are, to look at the end game of our life.
Yeah.
What are people going to say about us at our funeral?
Yeah.
Maybe more importantly, what do we want people to say about us at our
If
funeral?
you're lucky, who's turning up at the funeral?
Exactly right. I mean, especially today, So the third
Yeah.
one is this: what you leave behind
Yeah.
is what you weave in the hearts of other people. And when
Okay.
I had my leg amputated and I found out I had tumors in my lungs, I went with my wife to the mortuary, to the cemetery, and to our
Yeah.
church, and I planned my funeral. And because I give talks and I go on podcasts and I talk about motivation and the need to
Yes.
keep moving forward, I had people kind of reach out like, well, don't you think it's kind of defeatist, planning your funeral? And I was like,
No.
last time I checked, we're all going to die. I don't think
Yeah.
anybody's working on a cure for life right now, so.
Yeah. Let me know when that bill comes along. Yeah.
Exactly. So, I had to explain to these people that
Right.
everybody dies, but not everybody really lives. And I
Yes.
heard a Native American Blackfoot proverb years ago that I love, and it goes like this: when
Mm.
you were born, you cried, and the world
Yes.
rejoiced. Live your
Wow.
life. And I think those are the important words in this. Live your life in
Mm.
such a way so that when you die,
Yeah.
the world cries and you rejoice. That's
Wow.
what I want. That's what I'm
What a
looking for.
statement. What a statement.
It's a great one. So that's number 3. And then finally,
Yeah.
number 4, as long as you don't quit, you can never be defeated. And I think that's pretty self-explanatory, but the way that resonates with me is
Yeah.
someday my pain is going to end. It may end through surgery, it may end through
Yeah.
some kind of new medication. Quite
Yeah.
frankly, it may end when I die. But
Yeah.
if I quit, if I give up, if I give in to pain, then
Yeah.
pain will always be a
Yeah.
part
Yeah.
of my life.
Yeah, incredible resilience there, and it's something that I'm studying actually at the minute. It's very, very interesting, and this is very applicable to all people from all walks of life,
Yeah.
actually. Which is, when I think about my field and my interest in musicians, I think a lot of this actually does apply to their mindset, and like you say, it doesn't have to be a cancer or a severe illness. But generally, it's a mindset, it's a way of thinking. It can be any kind of adversity that you're
Right.
actually facing. This really does apply. So really, you mentioned the word purpose before. Terry, do you believe we all have a purpose?
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
I think we're all put on this earth to do something. I think
Yeah.
we have a unique set of gifts and qualities, and
Yeah.
I think, you know, I guess the way I look at it is that so many people go through life kind of casually,
Yeah.
and as a result, their goals, their dreams, their ambitions
Mhm.
become a casualty of that unplanned living. And so
Right.
when they get to and fortunately or unfortunately, I've seen a lot of people die. Being a
Yeah.
police officer
Yeah.
and being on this 10-year cancer journey, I've seen a
Yeah.
lot of people die. And I'm going to make a huge
Yeah.
generalization. But
Yeah.
I think the people who die, what you and I would call peaceful deaths, are
Yeah.
the people that actually did something with their life. They
Right.
found their purpose in life and they lived it.
Yeah.
Whereas the people who go kicking and screaming, who want another
Yeah.
month or another year,
Yeah.
those are the people that never seem to do anything with their life. And so,
Yeah.
I think if you find
Mm.
your purpose in life
Mm.
and live that, death
Mhm.
is not nearly as scary
No.
because you did what you were supposed to do. And
Yeah.
I mean, we all get hung up on death, and I don't know why, because I mean, we see it
Yeah.
every year. The
Yeah.
seasons, flowers
Yeah.
bloom, they grow, they
Right.
die, and we
Yeah.
start over again.
Yeah.
Happens all the
Cycle.
time.
Yeah.
But when it's us, it's like, oh, no, 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 don't want that. Why
Mm.
not? What's wrong with dying? It's part of living.
It is, and that's absolutely right. And it's about living in the moment. It's about taking advantage, making the most of your life in that moment, and go for your goals, go for your aspirations if you have them, or just like you say, the plain sailing. There are some people who just are very happy just getting up and going to their jobs, and it doesn't have to be this huge sort of elaborate kind of career where
Right.
you want to be a celebrity, or it doesn't have to be that. Your purpose can be something which is more humbly lived,
It
and
is. It is.
your purpose, you still cross paths and you still affect. We're all part of a big network, I believe, and
We are.
we're all connected in that way, spiritually and as part of a network. So it's about. I read something. Was it? I can't remember what it was. Was it Alexander Lowen? I think it was. There's a book called Joy. I read somewhere your purpose in life actually is to be happy. That's it.
Yeah.
I read that somewhere. And sometimes, I mean, with ambitious people, and I deal with a lot of ambitious people, there's a lot of misery when you try and pursue something that is really quite, there can be quite a lot of misery. So really what you're doing is you're saying everyone's got a purpose, and I believe that. But I think sometimes young people get stuck on finding that purpose as well, don't you think?
I do.
Sometimes?
And I think you made a good point a minute ago.
Yeah.
A lot of times we think that our purpose has to be
Yeah.
our job, our career, our
Yeah.
profession. It
Yeah.
doesn't.
No.
You can have a job over here that
Mm.
pays the bills, but
Yeah.
your purpose is to write music or to play music or to volunteer or to be a coach or whatever it is. And I
Yeah.
always tell young people,
Yeah.
especially, if
Yeah.
there's something in your heart, something in your soul that
Yeah.
you believe you're supposed to do, but it scares you,
Yeah.
go ahead and do it. Because at
Fab.
the end of your life,
Yeah.
the things you're going to regret are not
Yeah.
going to be the things you did. They're
Yeah.
going to be the things you didn't do. And by
Mm.
then, it's going to be too late to go back and do them.
Very profound. Very, very, very profound. So these talks you give, where do you give these talks generally? Where are your talks?
It depends. I'm giving one in June to
Okay.
a bankers association that's coming to Colorado.
Okay.
I mean, with COVID, it's been more of a
Oh,
virtual kind of thing.
yeah, sure.
And
Yeah.
then I do these podcasts. I've been
Yeah.
very fortunate. I've probably done over 400 podcasts around the world, and
Amazing.
have had a great experience, learned a lot, met a lot of great
Yeah.
people. So I've been very lucky.
Oh, Terry, it's amazing. Let's talk about your book. Okay. You have a book, Sustainable Excellence, 10 Principles to Leading Your Uncommon and Extraordinary Life. What a great title. So Brilliant. So what can we expect from reading the book? What's in the book?
So the book was really born out of two conversations I had. One was with a former basketball player that I had coached who moved to the area where my wife and I live in the United States. And we'd had dinner one night with her and her fiance. And after dinner, I remember saying to her, I'm really excited that you're living close and I can watch you find, just like we were talking about before,
Yeah.
find and live your purpose.
Mm.
And she got real quiet for a while. And
Mm.
she kind of looked at me and she's like, well, coach, what do you think my purpose is? I said, I have no idea what your purpose is, but that's what your life should be about. Finding the reason you were put on the face of this earth, living that reason, and seeing where your life takes you. And
Right.
so that was one conversation. The next
Okay.
conversation was with a young man who reached out to me on social media and asked me what I thought were the most important things that he should learn to not just be successful in his job or in business, but to be successful in life. And I didn't want to give him the, get up early, work hard, help others kind of stuff. Not that those aren't important. They're very important. But I
Yeah.
wanted to see if I could go deeper with him. So I took
Yeah.
some time and I wrote some notes and eventually I had these 10 ideas, these 10 thoughts, these 10 principles. And so I
Mm.
sent them to him. And then I
Right.
kind of stepped back and I was like, I got a life story that fits underneath this principle, or I know somebody whose life emulates that principle. So
Mm.
literally during the 3-month period after I had my leg amputated, while I was healing, I sat down at the computer every day and I
Mm.
built stories, and they're real stories about real
Mm.
people. I
Wow.
built stories underneath each of the principles, and that's how sustainable excellence came
Wow.
to be.
Oh, that sounds great. I mean, I'm going to admit I haven't read it, but I'm definitely going to. It sounds really. So it's real, basically. It's based on real stuff, real
Yeah,
stories.
real people, real
Real
stories. I
people.
mean, some I
Yeah,
know, some people I
yeah,
don't know, but yeah.
yeah. So when we look at purpose, I mean, you must have gone through several phases, many phases throughout your life, where you probably looked at your own purpose. What's your purpose now? What's your
Yeah, I think
purpose?
I think you make a great point. I
Mm.
mean, we all think our purpose is one thing and we lock
Yeah,
into it and
yeah,
that's it for the rest of our lives.
yeah,
I don't think that's the case. I think when I was
yeah,
younger, my purpose was basketball. I mean, I lived it, ate it,
yeah,
slept it, it was basketball.
right,
Then I think my purpose was to be in law enforcement. And
right,
now I think my purpose is to put as much goodness, positivity, motivation, love back
mm,
into the world as I can with whatever amount of time I have left. So my
yeah,
purpose has certainly shifted and changed over the course of my life. And I
mm,
think that's normal. I mean,
yeah,
I don't think, I mean, sure, there are people that do something
yeah,
for,
yeah.
70 years, but I think that's the exception and not the rule.
I think it's part of growing. It's part of growing. It's part of getting older as well. There was a wonderful person called Cole Rogers that I studied humanistic counselling, and there was a chapter in his book, and it says, "Growing was it growing older or older and growing?" So it's lovely. So
Yeah.
but what's interesting is your several careers. Do you think they're all linked in some kind of way? Is any part that is transferable? I mean, basketball, that's about strategy, isn't it, really, if you think about it? But in
Yeah.
the
I mean,
police force that you did some motivational stuff there, didn't you?
I certainly did some counseling.
Right.
I mean, when
Okay.
you've got somebody
Yeah.
barricaded in a house with hostages and a
Good
gun,
Lord.
and I mean, that's pretty real stuff. And that, but
We
I
don't
mean,
have guns over here in the UK.
yeah, exactly.
We don't have them. Well, we
You
do.
have them. You just only the
We have
bad
them.
guys have them.
They're just, yeah, exactly.
But I think I've learned things through, like, for example, sports. Team
Yeah,
sports. I think what I learned from that was
yeah.
the importance of being part of something that's bigger than
Okay.
yourself. And
Wow.
I think you realize as a team member that if you don't do your job, not only do you
Yeah.
let yourself down, but you let your teammates down, your coaches down, your fans down,
Okay.
etc. And if
Right.
you think about it, the biggest team
Yeah.
game that we all play is this game of life.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I am being
Yeah.
treated now for these tumors in my lungs, and
Mm,
the way I try to have people look at that is,
mm.
there are two ways I can look at that. Either I have to go to treatment or I get to go to treatment. If I
Yeah.
have, and we all, you get up in the morning, I have to go to work, or do you
Mm,
get to go to work? I have
yeah.
to, whatever it is. And it's just
Yeah.
a different way of looking at it. And for me, it goes back to being part of something that's bigger than yourself, because the treatment that I'm on right now most likely won't save my life, but it might save somebody's life 5 years from now or 10 years from now
Yeah.
after I'm gone. And
Mm.
to me, that's okay. All the garbage that I have to go through, all the shaking, all the vomiting, all the stuff that the drug makes me do, for me is worth it, because it's being part of something that's bigger than me, of maybe helping somebody that I'll never know, that I'll have no idea that
Mm.
they were helped, but
Yeah.
what the doctors are gleaning from me will help somebody down the line. So I think
Mm.
if you're smart, you
Mm.
learn from every job, from everything that you have
Mm.
in your life. And that's part of being a lifelong learner. And I think we should all do that.
Absolutely. So selfless the way you put it there. It's such a selfless thing to say. What I do see links wise, that's why I ask you. Sometimes I ask questions and no one's really made the links yet because you haven't really maybe reflected in that way. But if you look at basketball, it's team playing, as you say. If you look at the force, you're also team playing.
Yeah.
You're looking at network. There is a network, so there is that commonality running all through, and that it feels like that strategies and the level of communication, how you communicate, what you're communicating, and you're all about encouraging, aren't you? Encouraging, supporting, and motivating. And that feels that that's where you're at now. That's your purpose, is to pass that forward.
It is. Absolutely right.
Yeah, that's what and you're doing an amazing job.
Thank you.
So when it comes to, you're still being treated now, is this funnily enough, I'm going to share something with you. My father has just gone for treatment for his lungs. He had some tumors in his lungs, so he's just had to have that surgery. So I read that and I thought, oh, my father's just gone through that. So you're on medication now, yeah?
I am. I'm on a clinical trial study. I was
A
on
trial,
chemotherapy for a while. That
right?
was kind of a bridge that led me to this study. And all this drug does is,
Yeah,
the way cancer works is, the way it hides in the body is that it
yeah,
secretes a protein that hides itself. So the body doesn't
yeah,
recognize it as foreign. And
right.
what this drug therapy does is
Yeah.
it basically unmasks, it removes that protein. So the body's immune system can say, oh, hey, that's cancer. We should go get rid of that.
Oh, I
And
see.
so it's
Yeah,
not like
yeah,
chemotherapy where the
yeah.
drug kills the tumor. It's
Right.
basically unmasking the tumor to allow your body to do what it's
Mm.
supposed to do. So
Yes.
it's a different way of looking at it. It's they call it immunotherapy, and
Right.
and and it's having some success. I still have the
Yeah.
tumors. It's not like they're gone, but they have shrunk a little bit, and they
Great.
haven't gone anywhere else.
Yeah.
So from that
Yeah.
perspective, small victory.
Fantastic. Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And if these things can be, and they can be under control with medication, I know my
Yeah.
father had that, and
How's your
yeah,
dad doing?
he's okay. He's all right actually. He's quite strong, quite a fighter actually. He's 70 now, so yeah, he's doing okay. But he's been taking this medication for years. It's he's on, I don't know what other pills he's on, all sorts of pills, but there's one for, what is it? It's a cancer of the blood, actually. So he basically has something, he's been controlling it for like 20 odd years,
Okay.
living with it. There you go. You know,
Wow. Yeah,
it's
that's great.
incredible, really. It's amazing, So there you go. Yeah, fit as a fiddle. And I think you can really tell when you're doing well is your spirit. We touched on spirituality, is when you feel like you want to do things. Oh, you've got the urge to go and, I don't know, I feel like going out today, or I feel like going seeing my friend, or I feel like writing a book, or I feel like, when you have that urge, it's like it's so important, because that's how alive you are. It's all about the spirit. It's when you start to lose and decline, and you start to feel a bit tired, and you don't feel like doing anything. That's when it gets a little bit worrying, really, for me anyway. But
It does. And
yeah,
cancer, as I'm sure you know with your father,
yeah,
cancer tends to isolate people,
yes,
because they don't feel good, or because, they don't want to be around other people because their blood counts are low, or whatever it
I
is. So
know,
cancer tends to isolate people from that.
yeah,
And you really need to make a conscious effort
yes,
to engage in life. I think what you
yes,
were just describing,
yes,
that's called living. I mean, sitting around waiting to die. I always say, when I was on interferon, there's a difference between living and not dying. And
yeah,
I was in the not dying phase. I really
yeah,
wasn't living. I mean, I
yeah,
was sick all the time. And
yeah,
there's a big difference between
yeah,
living and not dying. And I think we need to actively engage ourselves
Yeah.
to try to make ourselves be in that
Mm.
living part.
Absolutely. And I think a part of doing that is who you speak with, who you associate yourself with, who you surround, your environment's important. I personally love comedy. I always think
Laugh.
comedy is the best medicine for me. And if you want to really lift yourself, have a good laugh. Basically, put some great comedians on. I swear to God, I truly believe that is one of the best medicines that there is for everything. Laughter, happiness,
Yeah.
you got to
I mean,
find it. You got to find it. You
It
have
is,
to.
and it's
You have
proven.
to.
Laughing releases endorphins that make you
Yeah.
feel better. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Terry, it's been an amazing conversation. You're so inspirational. Thank you so much for coming on and for speaking with me. And I really look forward to getting this out there. And I think it's really relevant to my field of work and with musicians. It's about that motivation and about keep going, that resilience. And it definitely does apply to my field of study. So I just want to say thank you very much for coming. It's been a real pleasure.
Well, thanks for having me. And I wish you all the best as you work on your PhD. Good luck.
Fingers crossed. God bless.
You read about it in magazines, the news.